Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so delighted to see you after a long holiday weekend. I passed by some of the beaches yesterday. I saw some familiar faces like Maxine and Mika and Robin. All of them went by the beach yesterday. That was good, a good thought. Going for a swim, it really helps you. Sheila, I don't know why you was not at one of the beaches, or you have a private beach in the back of your yard. You just walk at your house and, just step on the beach. But anyway, it was a good time yesterday. That's my story I was telling at the beginning, so there's no need to negotiate that and answer my story, all right? So we having a good time. You're in a wonderful place, great place to be. You couldn't have asked at this point in time to our visitors and everyone to be at a better place. Everything you tried to do today, you just had all road leads to this site. And I'm going to tell you, once it's just not enough. If you taste this wine at the Rotary Club of Nassau, you will want to come back. You will want to come back and you're going to ask, where can I find more? You ain't going to find it in no other shop but the Rotary Club of Nassau. With all that said, let's turn over to Skippers. Rotarian Skippers.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians, and welcome yet to another exciting 1-hour meeting. It's so good to see all of you here this afternoon. The late Miles Monroe in his song Brand New World said, "We don't like the way the world is turning. Something inside is always yearning for a brand new world. So if you want a brand new world, you've got to have a brand new people. And if you want a brand new people, you've got to have a brand new life." Today is exciting because we're going to be talking about issues affecting the youth and in the Bahamas. And I'm really, really excited. And I know all of you are excited. And if we want to have a brand new world, we got to start impacting our nation's youth. So to get this meeting started this afternoon, we're going to commence with our Rotary Grace. We thank you, God, as we renew our dedication to the ideals of brotherhood, service, and peace, as you give us the vision and energy to pursue them. Amen. At this time, I'm going to invite Rotarian Sandra Walks to come with the loyal toast to the Queen and the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Rotarian Sandra.
Fellow Rotarians, please join me in a loyal toast. Toast to the Queen and the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
To the Queen and the Commonwealth of Bahamas.
Here.
Thank you so much, Rotarian Sandra. At this end, I think my screen froze just now. So thank you so much, Rotarian Sandra. At this time, we're going to invite Rotarian Darren to come and welcome all of our guests to this 47th meeting. Rotarian Darren.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everyone. It's certainly a joy for me to take this time to welcome all of you to our meeting. And as you would have said with your opening salvo, this is going to be a wonderful meeting. Indeed, one, I like the opening remark in terms of this being a brand new world. And certainly we have the opportunity to impact the world that we live in. So we're just going to take this time and welcome all of the visiting Rotarians. Let's have a quick look, please. Any visiting Rotarians, if you kindly introduce yourselves this afternoon, please. You don't have any visiting Rotarians?
Yeah, Shira is on from Rotary Club of Sunrise.
Indeed, welcome. We're delighted to have you joining us. And of course, to all of the guests who are joining us, I couldn't help but look at Rotarian Sandra Walks' banner in the background. This is the good thing about virtual, Sandra Walks. Says making 60, what is in the background? There you go, you got it. You're all in your business today.
Making it look good.
Absolutely, and you're doing a wonderful job, but I might as well tell you.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and introduce any guests this afternoon, Mr. President, you're introducing?
Let's find out from the club members if they have any guests. They might have some special guests before I say one or two guests who I might have.
I don't see Dwayne Swaby on. But I want to take this time and welcome all of our guests, Mr. President, who are joining us this afternoon. We certainly look forward to this useful meeting that's going to be this afternoon today. Let's have a quick look.
Yeah, I do have one or two guests. But
indeed, go ahead.
I want to say hello to Sharia Adley from the Rotary Club of Sunrise, who keep popping into our meetings and she just have to come forward. You cannot tell me in secret that you want to join the club. You got to come and say in public that I won't be a part of this club, right?
Right. I really ought to steal her as my guest this afternoon. I'm sure she wouldn't mind being stolen from you, Mr. President.
Okay, no problem. And I have one of my neighbors, Ms.
Go ahead, please.
Dane Williams. She is a guest. All right, you there? Just say, if you can say hello.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me.
Welcome.
Pleasure.
Welcome.
Pleasure.
Welcome.
Okay, then we have Alandra Russell, another one of my guests.
Ms. Russell, welcome.
Okay, I supposed to have another guest. She's not here, but we good so far. They're two good people. And you know,
indeed.
You know, once I touch them, once they touch this club that's it.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
It's a pleasure. Welcome to have you there, Rotary.
Okay. Rotarian Skipman, to turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Rotarian Darren and President Stephen. Now we're going to invite Rotarian Chantal to come with our Rotary moment. Rotarian Chantal. Thank you so much, Rotarian Chantal, for our Rotary moment. And for our visitors here today, there's just so much things that you can get involved with Rotary. I hope that today you have a lasting impact. And before the end of the week, you reach out to join this awesome, awesome club. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our President Stephen. President Stephen.
Thank you, Skippins. Look so lovely in that uniform. You know, I don't want to say it no more, but you look so lovely in it, right? Thank you. That's as much as I want to say about that uniform.
Thank you, President Stephen. Your message is loud and clear.
It is great on this side.
I know. I'll be there soon. Not long.
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure. Really happy to have you. Really happy to see your smiling face, whether you're still photos or you're moving photos. But the smiles still look good, like Tamika, Maxine, and Sharia, and Royan, a number of, oh man, our visitors. You know, I want to see that in you. But anyway, so you look good this morning. Sandra, Raquel, Emily. I'm talking about the people the still smilers, you know, my guest Alandra. Mark, you could just shift it a bit, just a little bit more, you'll be good, all right? Roshan, and just take it a little bit to the left and you'll be good. Mike, you on point, all right? And Bain Miller, as always, you there, all right? We all, ladies and gentlemen, we have another guest here, and we looked at, and Keno, I blame you for this. I ain't gonna take this one. We have Christopher Roberts, Reverend Christopher Roberts, the singing bishop. He's everything, and can add flavor to the club. That's all I can say. But Reverend Robert, just say hello, Reverend Roberts, if you're nearby.
Well, good afternoon to everybody, and Mr. Dean, please, do not get me in trouble with one Lawrence Roll. He indeed is the singing prophet and bishop. You're gonna get glad to be here.
Okay, Bishop, we got it. Point well taken. You know, and the excitement of this club, it is what it is. Whatever said in this club, it remains right here. But thank you. Just a plug was thrown in, you know? Just a plug was thrown in. Thank you. Jonathan, I still see a smile. I don't want you to think I get upset with you. I see a still smile, okay? But ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'm always thankful to the good master, and I'm always thankful for you, our members. Without the members, we won't have no club. Without the exciting members, re-energized members, exciting members, we won't have no club. I must tell you that I feel proud to speak of you wherever I go. The Rotary Club of Nassau. One time ago, when we had a Rotary Club of Nassau, I used to go the other way. People want to stop now when they hear about the Rotary Club of Nassau, where all the excitement live, the most energetic club in this side of the universe, the most progressive club in every sphere of human endeavor. We are moving forward. We are doing some exciting things. We just have a group of wonderful people who have a good heart. That's what it's all about. You have a good heart. And I value everyone in this club. I value you and I appreciate you. That's the depth of my heart. I do appreciate you because the president I am, I wouldn't be the president I am. I need people around me because of the people around me, because of the board members, and because of you, the membership, what you contribute. You make us who we are. We keep talking about the great club, but we live in the great club. This is evidence-based of a great club. I think you need to give yourself a clap or a rousing round of applause for the club that you are. I'm the only one clapping. That's fine. That's fine. But be good. Be good. And I know it's in your heart. I can see some claps in the heart, you know? So that's great. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to just thank you for everything that is going on. One thing I wanted to say that this week coming up, last week we were unable to do the presentation at the Department of Corrections. And that is pushed for 11 o'clock this Thursday morning. I need but 5 to 10 volunteers to just reach out to me to accompany me at the prison. We're gonna make a presentation of, they really needed a flat screen TV. They got a large 55-inch and a laptop computer. And we are able to get Bahamas agencies. Yes, I'm missing the full name, but they're on board now to assist with sanitizers. They'll be given sanitizers, hundreds of sanitizers, sprays and stuff to the prison at the same time. So they have partnership with us after they heard about the excitement. So that's something for 11 o'clock on Wednesday morning. I would appreciate very kindly. I don't expect you to come in your t-shirts, but you could wear your mask. That's fine. The mask will be just perfect to be there. So really want to thank you. There are a lot of things that are coming up on the drawing board. We know that we're gonna have a changeover. It's very soon. That's on the 29th. And I think that there's some of you might have seen in the group. For our guests, the changeover is when a new board takes over. This board that presently on now will just be handing over the baton to the next board who continues on. Rotary is continuous. So that's in short what it's all about. So we expect to have an exciting time. You have seen the Sheila, I want to commend you for great work at putting the invitations out, the flyers out, and putting it really together. I call in all kinds of different words, but I really want to thank you for it. So what I want, Sheila, just give a little bird's eye view into that, what you have done. Just quickly, please, because we are running on time.
Yeah, everyone, this is something that you shouldn't miss. It's always, the highlight of the previous year. And it's also welcoming the incoming board and the new president. And the added thing this year is that a lot of you guys, I've never ever met in person. So this is your opportunity for, everybody to get to really know each other. I do want to point out, as you would have seen on the actual invitation flyer, we are limited to 50 persons. So unfortunately, it's members only. You won't be able to actually bring a guest with you because, we have COVID restrictions on numbers. What happens at the changeover is that the outgoing board stand there hopefully that they're going to get an award from the president.
Yeah.
And the incoming board, the new president will be inducted and be pinned, and the incoming board will be welcomed. And the other thing as well is that there are 3 big awards that are given every year, and they're secret until that evening. There are 3 of them. One is the Rising Star Award. So if you're a newish member, then wow, it could be you, and you need to turn up to find out. And then we have the Service Above Self Award. And then the biggie is Rotarian of the Year. And so if you want to find out if it was you, you're going to have to show up. Don't show up, you ain't going to get your award. Anyway, please get in touch with Joan to confirm your attendance. And when you do that, make sure that you select which of the two entrees you would like. I think it's either chicken, what is it, Joan? Chicken or fish? Joan? Oh, anyway, I think it's chicken or fish.
Chicken or fish.
Yeah. So anyway, please confirm with Joan as soon as possible. And remember that once you have confirmed, we have to send the numbers to the yacht club. So if you confirm and then don't show up, we still have to pay for you. Thank you, everyone, and look forward to seeing you all on the 29th. Thank you, President Stephen.
Okay, they can bring the money on the evening. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Sheila and John, for working interchangeably with that. I want to say to the club, traditionally what the changeover from what I've looked at, you were paying about $40 to $50, So when we look at the times that we are in, we thought it was in quite conventional wisdom to use to allay the burden on members. So that's why the fee is $20, all right? So I think that works out good, and I appreciate all the negotiators behind the scene and causing this to happen, and we are at a good place, all right? And that's what this club is all about when we're talking about taking care of our people. Also, I just want to throw this little note in. We have been mentioning it about, and I think President Green talked about it last week. Past President Green talked about it in the last board meeting. We had club assembly with the membership. We are very close on getting we have forwarded to the first phase, the membership of the Satellite Club in Cat Island. And a lot of things are happening, some moving parts are happening with that. So we hope to have that worked out in another month or maybe 2 or shorter. Also, while we're there, I want you to keep the thoughts and prayers for the people of Cat Island, because even some of the proposed Satellite Club members have been affected by the COVID. So there was a rise on that island there. So keep them in your thoughts and your prayers. So we have been in talking with some of them. Some of them are still in bed, actually. All right. But it's all going good. The reports this morning, when checking with them, they all seems to be in good spirits. Joan, is anything of importance you want to share?
Not anything more. Apart from, we already talked about the changeover thing. So I look forward to hearing from those who plan to come.
Okay, excellent. Okay, what we will do now, I see we have some anniversaries, some Rotary anniversaries. Deandra, Derica, and Charlene. So they have X amount of years in Rotary. Deandra, I think, is 6, Derica 3, Charlene 5. Deandra's on. Any of them on today?
No, don't think so.
Yeah. Well, because we can record this, I still Chantel, still play the happy anniversary and birthday song, yeah?
You want me to play the birthday for anniversary?
Yes, I want you to play it. Just because it's re-recording it, I want them to know that there was something we said to them. Celebration, that's a birthday.
Well, aren't you leaving off a name, or you want me to say it? So President Stephen is also celebrating a Rotary anniversary today. He is celebrating 12 years.
12 broken years. That's broken years. That's
Rotary
why I said,
years.
Because I see Sheila looking at me with an eagle eye, you see?
Yeah, I'm watching you. I'm watching you.
The lead of your president sometimes.
I had to get this guy back into Rotary twice.
Oh my goodness.
That's when you wake up for your country. That's when you put country above self. So that's what I'm doing. Okay?
Okay.
All right. I still want to hear the music. All right?
Okay. Oh, shucks.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
My birthday, come again. My birthday, come again. My birthday, come again. How old am I now? My birthday, come again. My birthday, come again. My birthday, come again. So I can party all night.
Thank you very much, Chantel. And I must share this with you. I was speaking to a guy one day and I saw this on a group chat. I saw the same happy birthday from Rotary Club of Nassau Plain. And the guy said he forgot it was his wife's birthday. So he said the quickest thing he could have done was send this to her. tell her he in Rotary, so he just sent it to her. Okay, I leave it right there. Go back to you, Skippers.
Good afternoon again, and thank you so much, President Stephen. President Stephen, I don't know if you took notice, but I followed your instructions immediately. I didn't hesitate.
Yeah.
She took off the uniform.
Skippers,
Very
things
good.
have
Yes.
changed. You see the nice office you have since I left? Y'all get nice office. Y'all could change in your office. I can change in mine.
So true. Oh, okay, coming up this time, we're going to invite Rotarian Samita to come with the introduction of our guest speaker for today. Rotarian Samita.
Good afternoon, all. Constance Delancy is the Senior Court Administrator for the Supreme Court of the Bahamas. Ms. Delancy was admitted to the Bahamas Bar in 1994 and practiced throughout the Bahamas, specializing in civil litigation, family, and real estate law. In 2011, she was appointed as the Suppleantary and Circuit Magistrate assigned to the Juvenile Court. During her time in magistracy, Ms. Delancy also presided over several Family Island Circuit Magistrate courts. In 2017, Delancy was transferred to the Supreme Court as an assistant registrar. She was later promoted to deputy registrar and the acting director of court services. She was appointed as senior court administrator for the Bahamas Judiciary on the 23rd of November, 2020. Ms. Delancy is also an associate tutor at the Eugene DePuch Law School. As we celebrate Youth Services Month, please join me in welcoming Ms. Constance Delancy to discuss the issues affecting youth in the Bahamas. Ms. Delancy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm coming through clearly. I'm delighted to be with you this afternoon, and thank you very much for allowing me to get back up on my soapbox. As anyone who's known me knows that I'm very passionate about young people and giving our young people a second chance. So the discussion this afternoon is going to be from a perspective that I would have had sitting in the chair as the chairperson and the magistrate in charge of the juvenile court for about 5.5 years. And I must say it was the best gig I ever had in my entire life thus far. And I wish to go back because you can actually see something happening down there. So I got this topic and I was kind of taken aback because I thought this is a very wide topic and 15 minutes, I can't possibly tackle this. And so I will emphasize by saying that I'm speaking from the chair that I once sat in, and I'm speaking from the perspective of a juvenile court magistrate. And that court, for those of you who may not know it, that court is governed by the Child Protection Act. Children who come to that court normally fall into one or two categories. Before I go any further, let me also state that when I use the word youth or young person or minor or juvenile, I'm talking about a baby just born and anyone under the age of 18. And the law and society views those individuals in a very different light, depending on the age category, believe it or not, that they fall into. So the children that I would have encountered during the time that I was there would have fallen into two categories. Children who would have been victims of neglect, who weren't properly protected. We call, generally speaking, the welfare protection section of the court, and then the delinquency, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with, having seen what's happening in the headlines. So I've divided my presentation into those two general categories: the welfare and protection issues that our children are faced with, and the delinquency issues that they're faced with. So, first obvious challenge that our children are facing is that of abuse. And abuse can take several forms. Like I say, I'm speaking from the perspective of the juvenile court. In that perspective, we look through the lens of what is known as the Child Protection Act. So let me preface that. The Child Protection Act is the principal act that governs everything that affects a child from the day they are born to the day before they turn 18 years of age. Because once you turn 18 in the Bahamas, you are no longer a child, you are an adult. And different rules apply. The Bahamas is also a signatory on the UN's Convention on the Rights of the Child. Now, I know when most of us were growing up, I can't speak for the younger ones, we rambled through the bush. We had no law for us. You did something naughty, you got spanked by every neighbor you passed. That is not the world we live in today.
Right.
The world we live in today is so sophisticated that children have their own convention. And they have codified the rights of the child. And those rights center around primarily the principle that the welfare of the child must be the paramount consideration whenever you are dealing with anything dealing with children. But as the world becomes more sophisticated, we are finding that the happy-go-lucky, very fairy-like childhood that you and I enjoyed, of being able to freely bramble through the bush on a school break, to go for sea grapes, to go for tally berries and cocoa plum or whatever your island had to offer, and go missing for hours without your parents becoming apprehensive, is not the world that the children are living in today. So the children that come into the juvenile court generally fall into the welfare or the protection category or the delinquency category. So I'm going to divide my talk up into those two categories. So looking at welfare and protection issues, the first obvious issue that most of our children are facing today is the issue of abuse. And abuse can be physical abuse, mental abuse, and sexual abuse. You see it all in society today. Things that would have in the past been the norm is no longer the norm today. For example, have you ever heard the story of naughty Johnny, who's been taken off by the scuff of his neck by mom, who can't control him, and takes him down to the station, someone like President Stephen, and says, I can't control him, spank him. This child is misbehaving. And the poor police officer, thinking he's doing his civil duty, spanks this child. Well, guess what? Under law now, that is abuse. And that poor officer could be brought up on charges simply because he thought he was doing his civic duty. When it comes to abuse, nowadays it can be very subtle and it can be very untoward. You can have it in the headlines of the newspaper, or you could see what's happening in a neighbor next door. You can hear a child that's crying and you wonder why. And the child could be deprived of food, and a child could be being molested by someone in their own home. And generally speaking, we find that children who are molested by persons who are actually a person that they worship, idolize, and trust. And so our children fall victim to that. And then there are the more aggressive predators who will threaten the child with not only hurting them, but hurting their family members and their friends. The next is neglect. Now, neglect, the obvious one is, the child's been starved, the child's not, you see the child walking around, obviously they're not bathing. You would think that's an obvious case of neglect, but neglect can go a little further than that. Neglect can be not paying attention to your child at all. There are so many members of society that came before the courts with children acting out where the parents were in the upper echelon economically, but because they were not paying any attention to the child felt neglected, and the child acted out. So it can be less obvious. Then there is access to education. Access to education is a fundamental right that every child should enjoy. And that access should never be hampered with or interfered with. And COVID has brought home to us just how fundamental access to education is every day. I'm speaking to you right now by Zoom. My 14-year-old is sitting at home but listening to her teacher in a similar platform. And there are hundreds of children out there right now that do not have access, basic access to education. either in person or through an online platform, which we've all had to graduate to either as a means of getting education moving forward, or even as a stopgap measurement when schools have to be closed down temporarily. And it reminds me of what Hugo Victor once said, or Victor Hugo, sorry, I'm putting his name in incorrectly. And he said that a man who opens a school closes a prison. What does that mean? When a child has access to education, he has access to opportunities. He can choose to be a carpenter if he wants to with his PhD, or he can choose to be the prime minister. But a child that has no access and has no education, that choice is taken away from him or her, and he has to settle. And that breeds a lot of anger and resentment towards society, believe it or not. Beyond parental control, I'm sure President Stephen, you know with this one. They used to bring children to court and the stations and say, this child is uncontrollable. Well, the law says no, a child is not responsible for him or herself legally, so how can this child be uncontrollable? So that's changed to be beyond parental control. It means the law recognizes that the adults in this child's life is not properly supervising this child. And therefore, this child could end up being harmed as a result of that lack of control. Sometimes the court has to step in and place that child on a supervision order and pair them with a social worker. And that social worker is not just catering towards that child, it is catering towards that family to find out what is the root cause of what's happening with this child and how can we get this child and this family back on track. The other is the all-time favorite, social media. Now, social media in this pandemic has been used for a lot of positive stuff. Access to education, access to your family. But with that creates another problem. Because children, a lot of children who have access to social media are unsupervised. And there are a lot of predators out there who are luring our children into inappropriate behavior. And then I've seen inappropriate behavior by adults with regard to children. I'll give you an example. My 28-year-old, she likes to come to my room and sit down and read what's on her phone from social media platforms. And she read an ad of a missing child, missing, I think, teenager. And what shocked me was the comments that the adults were making towards the child. They made the victim the person who had the problem. What do I mean by that? There were remarks, oh, she gone. When she's finished doing her nonsense, whatever fella she finds, she coming back. Well, no one stopped to consider that perhaps this child is missing because either this child is being abused, neglected, or perhaps this child was lured away and this child is in danger. There are too many times when social media is not used for good, it is used for evil. And so we have situations where we have adults bullying children and children bullying children, and they end up before the courts. And there's a lot of pressure on social media with our young people. Young people feel they have to be perfect. They create false identities. They give into false realities. They see all of these so-called celebrities online and these bloggers and these reality shows, and they believe that that is reality, and they fall into that trap. And a lot of it ends up before the courts because then they step over the line and it becomes a criminal offense then. And then the issue is, how do you deal with the perpetrator and how do you deal with the child victim? Then there is the fact that there is no safety net. And I'll repeat this. There is no safety net between childhood and adulthood. What do I mean by that? We have homes for children. We have detention facilities for children. But what do we not have in the Bahamas? I'll tell you what we don't have. We don't have a proper transition facility. These children turn 18. They're turned out from whatever home they were in. So whatever safety net they had, is now gone. They're now turned 18, and for their present, they are put out into society and they are left there with no safety net. There are very few mentor programs. If they're not mentored by an NGO similar to Rotary or Pilot or whatever is out there, then they are lost. And there's so many of them that are lost like that. There are children that are in homes for their own safety. And at 18, what do? Return them back to the same neighborhood from whence we took them. Rather than having a place where they can transition from childhood to adulthood, where they have some sense of what is normal and what is expected, and to put them in touch with the right places to get the right skill sets. So let's look at delinquency. This one is a little bit more obvious than others. And the challenges in this category, I can't even get on one page and I can't get into 15 minutes, but I'm going to try and touch on a little bit of it. What do I mean by delinquency? Well, let's start from the top. Can anyone tell me what they think the age of criminal responsibility is in the Bahamas? Anyone?
15.
10.
18.
Someone said it. 10.
10. Wow.
10. Do you know before the Child Protection Act came into being, it was 7?
Yep.
So it means that if you are 10 years of age or older and you go into Miss So-and-so shop and you steal that pack of gum, you could get charged with stealing. You could get charged with a criminal offense. So law recognizes that that is the yardstick that our children are dealing with. They're not old enough to vote. They're not old enough to drink. But at 10 years of age, they could be charged with a crime. So more obvious is the school violence. I'm sure you've heard it. The headlines are all out there. Children that are stabbing each other, children that are going after each other and bullying each other. There are certain children that have to pass a gauntlet just to get to school, meaning there are certain neighborhoods they can't pass through just to even get to school. And when they get to school, there are certain areas they can't be caught alone in. So school violence is a real thing. And we don't have the systems in place in our society, in a lot of instances, to teach our children how they should act in school with one another. And a lot of this, believe it or not, falls on our law enforcement officers. Our police officers do a yeoman's job. They go into the schools and they preach and they talk and they tell you don't want to end up in prison. You should, find a peaceful way of resolving your issues. The other is the influence of gangs. I always told parents in my court, you got a choice. You parent your child or the street will. I'll say it again. You parent your child or the street will. Because everybody knows that the chairman of Walk Street and Company and Hold Up the Wall wants company in jail. And if they see you are progressing, they're going to do their darndest to lure you into it because they want to have influence over you. And you feel you want to belong. You want to be the big man in your neighborhood. And so kids get influenced and are lured into gangs very easily. You have children that are coming before courts who are charged with offenses like attempted murder and murder, and they will tell you, well, they paid me $300 or $30 to go shoot up this place. They're so young, they don't understand the ramifications of what they're doing, but so want to belong that they allow themselves to be taken off course. Then we have children that have gone down that road, that have been in the system so long, some kids as young as 9, I found, that graduated to very serious offenses. These children by the age of 15 are hardened criminals. They look you in the face. They have a teardrop. You know the ones I'm talking about, the ones that inked. And I remember a chill running down my spine the first time a 15-year-old explained to me what it meant. And he said to me, he says, Miss D, the one that's not filled in, I hit them, but they didn't die. The one that's filled in, they dead, but the police didn't catch me. So when you have a 15-year-old telling you those kinds of things, these are the kind of things that your children are exposed to. And don't fool yourself in believing that it's the children that are in what is now the bougie way of calling it, the inner city. I don't know what an inner city is, but you know, that neighborhood kind of attitude. No, you have kids from very affluent backgrounds that are falling for this because they want to belong. So what can we do about this? You will find that mitigating factors, as we call it, report abuse. Under the law, every single person has a responsibility to report abuse. If you see it happening, if you suspect it happening, you're supposed to call the police, call social services, and report it. Even if it turns out to be false, report it. Your report is anonymous, so you have no excuse. You have to guard the welfare of every single child you encounter. Pay it forward. We all have jobs, and those of us who have jobs, like me, I always tell people, I'm generosity's kid. I got where I got because someone put their hand in their pocket and gave me a scholarship and believed that I could get where I could get. So pay it forward. Don't forget where you come from. Give that kid a chance, because that's all they need. If you can't do it in dollars and cents, do it by giving me your time, your talents. Mentorship programs, I cannot, folks, I cannot begin to say how the courts rely upon NGOs, non-governmental societies, Rotaries, and different organizations to mentor our young people, because a lot of these young people do not have a stable environment, and the only stable person they have in your life is that mentor. So you can't give up on them. This is your future, and if you give up on them, you might as well lay down right now and say, I'm not going to do anything moving forward. Education beyond the classroom. Not every child learns alike. Not every child wants to go and do a BJC or a GCE or a PhD or whatever, or go to university. But we need to think of education beyond the classroom. Find out what that child is interested in and put that child in touch with the right people. Creating opportunities. Again, there are a lot of us, we've seen it happen in society. Old folks like us want to hold on to the job. We go and we go back, and they pay us big fancy salary as a consultant. We could have hired 6 young people for that salary. We need to start being more considerate of our young people. We need to start understanding that sometimes when we get to the point in life, we need to really step back and allow those opportunities to happen for those young people. We need to also instill in them that not all of them need to be doctors, not all of them need to be lawyers. There's no disgrace in whatever they choose to do. But we need to mentor them, and we need to instill those opportunities in them. Finally, my favorite person in the whole world when it comes to talking about kids is Frederick Douglass. I love his hairstyle. I think he's one cool dude. He says, it is easier to build strong children than to repair a broken man. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope I used up my 15 minutes. I'm not sure who was timing me. I probably won't be on it. So the floor is open if you want me to come back and speak on any particular other subject, but it's 15 minutes is not enough to cover this.
However, you did an awesome job, Magistrate Delancy. We're open for questions. Are there any questions from my fellow Rotarians? I'm going to start off with one, Magistrate Delancy, Crystalline Skippings. I know you mentioned about reporting abuse. In our society today, there are many people who believe that they should keep silent and say, well, that abuse is not my responsibility. Are there any consequences for persons who fail to report child abuse?
Oh, yes, there are. The law applies, we call it punitive. You could be brought up before the courts on charges, because especially if you fall in certain categories. Let me give you an example. People that deal directly with children, like teachers, like doctors, like school counselors, etc., youth leaders, especially, if you find that this child was in your ambit and you did not report it, there is in fact provision in the law for you to be punished for that. Because the law says that child abuse, neglect is society's problem. And if you are going to be in society, the Child Protection Act says that if you fail, if it comes to light that you knew and you failed to act, you could be brought before the courts and you could be charged and you could be fined up to $500 in some cases.
question. May I? Magistrate
Go ahead.
Delancy, excellent presentation. Thank you so much. Children are truly our future. I know time didn't allow you to touch on this particular topic, but can you share a little about bullying and how that has impacted our young people, whether it be physical bullying or cyberbullying?
Yeah, we saw a lot of that in juvenile court. And I'll tell you how it came to us. You would find that you have a child that's been constantly bullied, and that child one day snaps. He goes in the mom's kitchen and he grabs a steak knife, or he grabs an ice pick and he puts it in his pocket in school, and he figures no one's listening to me, no one's paying attention to me. And so he acts out and he stabs another child, or worse yet, the other child overpowers him and he gets stabbed. You find that children are insidious. Children are masters when it comes to bullying. You know, when I was in high school, my first day of high school, I got bullied because I didn't speak like everyone else. I had to learn how to speak like everyone else. And so I got my first-hand taste of bullying. But bullying goes beyond the in-person bullying. Bullying is either done individually or bullying is done in groups. And bullying can go all the way to the social media. And right now, that kind of bullying is on the upswing, where they put your business out on WhatsApp and Instagram and all these other platforms. They embarrass you. And those children are humiliated. You have children that are taking their own lives. You have children that had to move school. You have children whose parents have left their job simply because of bullying. And you would be surprised as to who is doing it. Now, what people don't realize is if you threaten me, it's a criminal offense. That's threats of harm, threats of death. And your good child could be brought before the courts because they bullied another child and they stepped over that line and they committed a crime. And that happens almost every day. We see it in juvenile court. So one of the things that needs to be encouraged is children need to have access to their parents, their guardians, their mentors, their counselors. When I say access, you need to be approachable. Because a child is not going to confide in you if they don't feel like you're going to be confidential, or if you're going to brush them off. A child gets brushed off often enough, either acts out or withdraws from emotionally and physically from society, and they become introverts. And worse yet, they become so withdrawn that they do not perform, they do not function, and they themselves become a problem later on for society.
I have a question. You spoke earlier and you said troubled parents back in the day used to take their kids to, let's say, the police station, and the police had I guess, the ability to discipline children. So what happens now? What happens when and I talk about physically discipline a child. What happens now when a troubled child goes to the police station and say, hey, this child is acting up? What are these people now allowed to do?
Well, first of all, the police never had the right to spank your child. That's the very first thing you need to be clear. That's a fallacy. They never had that right. The poor police officer thought he was doing his civic duty. You come and you acting rude, they spanked you because the parent requested it. So they thought that they were following the law. But what happens now, what should happen, is the police then would reach out to social services. And social services would then come and they would interview that child and that parent. And they would then do what is known as a social history. They will then determine whether this child needs to be removed either temporarily or long-term from that home and placed somewhere else for their safety. The child could be placed on what is known as a supervision order, where the child and the parent are supervised for up to a year, or the child could be placed on a care order, where the child is physically removed for either a couple of months, a couple of weeks, or maybe even 3 years, placed in a facility or placed in another home. I've had kids that had to have been placed with their grandparents, their aunts. Some have had to be placed with their godparents just to be safe. Or what we also will do as a part of that is that parent themselves be sent to the National Parenting Program. Let's face it, no kid I know came with instructions. I got to, and I wish they did. So if you have access to something like the National Parenting Program, where you can learn skills and also learn that there are resources out there. So when your 15-year-old son, and especially if you're a single mom, and your 16-year-old son is acting up and you don't know what to do, you know who to get in contact with. The police know who to get in contact with. And so those programs work hand in hand with the police. So you will find that the police partner with social services, welfare division, they partner with the school to try and bring some resolution to this child's problem and some form of normalcy to that particular family.
Magistrate Delancy.
And I want to just finish by saying that care order and that supervision order is actually signed by the juvenile magistrate after they've read and been satisfied that that's the proper thing to do for this child. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Rudy Lavardi here. You made a statement of open a school, close a prison.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that really stood out to me on a whole bunch of levels. But my question is that we hear too often that persons enter these correctional institutions, the prison, boys and girls industrial schools.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the intent is for a level of rehabilitation.
Right.
But too often we hear that these people come out worse than they went in. Are the courts and the correctional institutions working together to formulate a better set of programs that bring about true rehabilitation? What is being done to develop that aspect of, let's call it our penalty system?
Well, I'll tell you this, Mr. Lavari, first and foremost, when a child is being punished, if a child has to be punished, placing a child in either the Willamette Pratt Center for Girls or the Simpson Penn Center for Boys, or even in BDOCS, which is Bahamas Correctional Facility, we would try a number of measures before we even get to that. So the majority of the children who come before the courts actually get placed on probation. They do community service, they do counseling for either drug abuse, grief counseling, etc. Those that have to be placed in the facility have access to education. And then there are a number of programs within those facilities to assist with transitioning those children. I know that BDOCS is partnering with a number of NGOs to assist with job skills, to assist with counseling and transitioning these young people back in society. It's not a perfect fit. It is a work in progress, but it is happening. I can tell you that it is.
Thank you so much. We'll take one more question and then we will close the question and answer period. One more question. Is there another? Okay, if there are no more questions, hello?
One question there. Yes. So programs like the National Parenting Program, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I wasn't roading, I would have never known about that. Because I live in the inner cities, I have a soft spot for kids. And, you know, knowing that programs like this exist is a plus to even share with others who need of it. Why aren't these programs being, being advertised more, being put out there more, so those who are really in need of it would be more aware that they exist, even before they have to go for the courts, and they make it, you know, mandatory that they take part in these programs?
Well, the National Parenting Program is run by the Department of Rehabilitative and Welfare Services. It is part of their package that they deal with children. And a lot of them don't actually end up before the courts per se, because a child that is placed on care or a child that's placed on supervision doesn't normally come before the court. What comes before the court is the parent and the supervising officer from social services saying, this is what's happening. We've done this social report and these are things that are happening. The National Parenting Program, believe it or not, I didn't even know existed until I went on the bench. So I do agree there needs to be a lot more community awareness of the programs that they offer. They don't just offer parenting program, they offer drug counseling, they offer grief counseling, free tutoring by retired teachers. There's a group of retired teachers out of Grace Community called the Grace Initiative that actually teach remedial reading to children, because we found a lot of kids that act out are acting out because pardon me, they can't read, so they feel they have to pardon me, they feel that they have to do something stupid to get attention. My throat's gone. I wonder what's gonna happen, but I'm gone. So I would say I'd reach out to my friends in social services and ask them to do a campaign. But they do have every year they celebrate Child Protection Month. And they do run a campaign on news, they run a campaign on social media and on TV. So the message is getting out there. It's probably not getting into the areas that it needs to get into, to our kids that need it the most.
Sure. Thank you so much again, Ms. Delancy. If there are other questions, those questions can be asked in the parking lot discussion after today's meeting. At this time, can I also ask Galaxy A10S, could you kindly identify yourself within the chat, please? Thank you so much. At this time, I'm going to call on Rotarian Rudolph to come and give the vote of thanks. Rotarian Rudolph.
Good afternoon, Magistrate Delancy. On behalf of the Rotary Club of Nassau, I'd like to thank you for a stimulating and enlightening topic. The work being done by the courts is very challenging, and we appreciate the sacrifices you and others continue to make. Please accept the certificate as a small token of the impact you've made today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rotarian Rudolph. And now the four-way text.
We think, say, and do. Is it the truth?
Is it the truth? Is it
fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And will it be fun?
Thank you. And now we'll call on Rotarian Christopher for the Rotary Toast. Rotarian Christopher.
Hi. Good afternoon. If you all can raise our glass for the toast. All right. All the Rotarians and guests who are here, along with the Rotarians who are there, let us join Rotarians everywhere in a toast to Rotary around the world.
Rotary around the world.
Rotary around the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You've been great today. I've thoroughly enjoyed this session. I've thoroughly enjoyed Magistrate Delancy's presentation. It has been my pleasure to navigate you through this session. And now we turn the meeting back over to President Stephen. President Stephen.
Okay, Rotarians, very quickly, just a reminder, very exciting meeting, very great meeting. Really want to thank our Skippin. You did very well in navigating through this meeting. Excellent job. Looked like your internship at CNN worked out for you. So you're doing an excellent job. So, you know, remember when you start making those bucks, remember who did the reference, right? Okay, good. Also, we neglected to say something. I saw it in the group and I don't care. I think she would want us to say it too. We are honored that one of our members, because she touched the Rotary water, she have been not ratified as a candidate in the next general elections. Maxine, just say hello.
Hello, everyone. Of course, it's because I touched the Rotary water. Thank you very much for the congratulations.
Okay. Excellent, excellent, excellent. We really want to thank our speaker, Constance. Really appreciate you coming in. And, you know, I tell you, we got to have part 2. That's only part 1. And I think was very intriguing, very exciting. You touched some points. And look here, you helping me now making my speeches much better because I learned some little nuggets from you, you know. Went extremely well, And I think particularly our parents and mothers and, you know, all of us in the club, I think this was very enlightening for us, you know, because no child, not because you're in the inner city, not because you live out west, out east, and these places that you can escape what the challenges that exist among young people. Because like the magistrate said, former magistrate said, this, I've seen it. You've seen the wealthy, the poor, everyone, their children, they have issues. So I think this is what Rotary is all about, bringing these things to the table that we can educate and share the message. I want to really thank our visitors who came along, Alandra, Yvette, yes, and Reverend Roberts, and also our guests, Sharia. Good, Sharia, that doesn't mean when I go to take my vaccine. Sharia, Yes, because when I met her when I went to take my shot, you know. So I don't have to go back because she might have just say, I think I can give you a longer needle this time, you know.
Oh,
Okay.
no. Eddie,
All right.
take yours.
But we had a good time. It's always a pleasure to see all of you. Really want to thank you. Thank everyone. Looking forward to seeing you next week. If one of you have any questions for the magistrate, she's still here. If you could ask her 1 or 2 questions, she's still here.
I have a question surrounding the, I think it was the criminal age in our country. What was it? I think you talked about the criminal responsibility age as being 10. I'm not sure. Could you expand on that a little bit?
It is 10. Under the Child Protection Act, the age was raised from 7 to 10.
Okay.
And you can go online. The Child Protection Act is online. Bahamas law is online. It's it's called the Child Protection Act, and it's chapter 132. And the age of criminal responsibility is 10 years old.
How long ago did that act come into force?
This act came into force back in 2009.
Okay.
Magistrate, what age to the child would a person be considered to go into the prison, the Bahamas Department, as
14.
opposed to going?
A child can go. It can be sent to prison at the age of 14.
Wow.
Children are divided in criminal matters. Children are divided into 2 sections. One is child, and one is a young person. So a child is anyone from 10 to under the age of 14, and a young person is anyone from the age of 14 to under the age of 18. And yes, some of those persons have had to be sent there.
So what offenses what consideration would cause a 14-year-old go to the prison? What
Murder, armed robbery, rape. But it's not so much the offense, it's the behavior. I'll give you an example. You may have a child who has been in the system so long that they have been up to the boys, Simpson Pen Center. Let's just use a boy, for example. He's been up to Simpson Pen a couple of times. He's escaped a couple of times. He's broken the rules a couple of times. He's harmed other children in the facility. And because he has not gotten bail, then he will have to be placed in the juvenile section of BDOCS. Not only for his safety, but for the safety of the other children who are in the other facility.
Wow.
But I must say that juveniles are given priority when it comes to bail.
So the uncontrollable, because I see, how long does a person be up there for uncontrollable? I mean, I know you say that's uncontrollable anymore, but it seems like persons are still
beyond parental control?
Yes.
Well, you're talking about a child who is placed on a care order. A care order could be as long as 3 years.
Okay.
But generally speaking, when children are placed up there, they're placed up there sometimes to take them out of harm's way, to give the social worker and the welfare officer enough time to try and find an alternative for them. Because the last place you want to do is place them in it, because the problem is you introducing children who are you placing in a facility for protection with children who may be there on remand who've committed an offense.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've had instances where I had a little fella who went in, and in a week's time, he made a shank for everybody who was there.
Wow.
You see trends in terms of sometimes the father may be in prison, and so now the son or the daughter is carrying going on that same path. And have you seen that being the trend in your tenure?
I have seen that children who are exposed to that kind of reality sometimes tend to be more vulnerable to those to entering into that kind of life. But it goes back to what my mother used to say: normal for your child is what you make it. So if normal in your house is turning a blind eye to your child stealing, then that's your child normal. But you also have instances where you have the parent, what I call a left behind parent, the parent who's not incarcerated, beating that child metaphorically with that stick of your daddy no good, your mommy no good. You beat a child with that too many times, then what they do is you take the bar that you should be setting above for your child to reach. And as I used to tell them, they not only put it on the ground, they've dug a trench, they put it in, and they put the dirt over it. So the child feels that they have nothing to accomplish. So this is where, when members of society note that a child, and abuse can be very subtle. When you hear a child being spoken to in that manner, that's actually abuse. No parent should be telling their child, you're no good like you're no good daddy, or you're no good like you're no good mommy. That is mental abuse. And a child should be separated from that kind of environment. And that child's parent needs to get some assistance so that they understand that they're doing irreparable harm to their child. But not everybody's child whose father or mother has been in the system has fallen into that trap. But a lot of it has to do with what happens in the environment for that child. So if the child's normal is that their family partakes in criminal activity and they see nothing wrong with it, that's their normal. I mean, I hate to say it like that.